Awesome. Well, welcome, Kelly. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining me early on the Monday morning in your first podcast of 2025.
Yeah, start the year the right way.
Absolutely. So for listeners who don't know you, would you mind sharing a little bit on who you are, what you do?
Yeah, of course. So I've been in Dubai now for 17 years. I'm a mum of four. I have multiple businesses. My main businesses are I'm a business mentor, and I have a KMH management company, which we put on huge events, networking events, retreats, business events, women empowerment events. And we also have some businesses and brands that we take on that are new in the market and are looking for brand awareness and visibility. I've got a gym clothing brand, Gym Clothing Co, GCC, and a modelling and events company, as well as a podcast and probably some things that I've missed off, but that's about it for now.
And 4 beautiful children.
And 4 incredible children, yeah. Keep me on my toes.
So how do you do that, being a mother and being an entrepreneur, which is with one business, but multiple businesses?
Lots of planning and preparation. I always make sure that I get my stuff done from the hours of 5 till 3, and then from 3, it's mummy mode. So lots of planning, lots of preparation.
Amazing. And what's been your journey into entrepreneurship? Because obviously you said you've got 5 businesses there.
I think around 5. I started off with the modelling and events company here in Dubai, and then from there, it's all just grown organically. It's all just, it's not like I think, I'm going to set up a new business where I really want to do this. Like it's all just happened very smoothly, very organically. Yeah, I've been very lucky, and Dubai is an incredible place to start a business.
Absolutely. And I suppose being here for 17 years, you must be extremely well connected.
Well, I think that's why, I started doing the mentor. I was running events, helping women on a larger scale, and they would always come to me after and want one-to-one kind of advice and help. And I think the best way to be a mentor is to have gone through all the, the highs, the lows, the experiences, the failures, the successes. So, in essence, that's what I help all these other businesses to do, because I've done it all.
Absolutely. And so what brought you 17 years ago to Dubai?
Random story. I was living in Glasgow at the time, and the guy that owned my penthouse was moving over to set up a real estate company, and he was looking for a PA. I'd been in the same company for 8 years in Scotland, and I was single and was looking for a change. So took the position that actually never materialized because it was just taking too long. So it led me down a different path.
Wow. So you weren't in entrepreneurship back in Glasgow?
No, I worked for Optical Express. I was in optics and laser clinics, and
wow.
Yeah, completely different.
And did you have this kind of entrepreneurial streak? Was it something you wanted to do, or did that come when you were in Dubai?
It was never like, I want to start, maybe I want to do this. Like I loved working from the age of 16. Like I loved sales. I was a proper hustler, and always, make sure that I was top performer. And, what I did in Scotland was eventually was to go around to the different branches to get underperforming stores to perform better. So it was always striving for, better. I say greatness, but to become an entrepreneur, it just happened. It was all, like I said, it's always been in me, but I was never I didn't wake up and be like, I really need to start my own business when I was 16, but always wanted to hustle and work hard.
So what were the founding stages then of you moving from being Optical Express, coming over here, and then now you've got 5 businesses? Again,
like I said, it doesn't happen overnight, but it just happened very organically and very, once I kind of found my groove as such, it's just the way it was meant to be. It's not easy, but it's not been a struggle, it's happened, and I've had to work really hard to keep it, but it's not, I've never not wanted to do it. I've never been like, oh, I'm not doing this, it's too hard.
Yeah, understand. And a lot of people now, in the UK, I was reading this article in the news probably about 3 or 4 weeks ago about still the exodus of people that are coming over here, and that younger generation that are coming from the UK to Dubai to pursue entrepreneurship, pursue jobs and business. What is it easy? Is it easy for, and I know it's a generic question, but is it easy to come over here in comparison to?
I don't think it's easy. I think it's easier to set up a business here because there's so much opportunity. I still think that you've got to put the hard work in, I think that's probably one mistake that these young people, they come up, these young people, like I'm not young, they come over here.
Younger people.
And they think, they see the lifestyle and they see, the glitz and the glam and they're like, yeah, I want that. But do they actually want to put the hard work in? Mostly, no, they don't. They come over here and a lot of them do end up going back home with their tail between their legs because it's hard work. So you have to really come over here with the mindset of, not the party and the glitz and the glam, that will come 10 years down the line, but that you have to, keep your head down and work really damn hard to get where you want to be and to fulfill the dreams that you have.
Yeah. And would you say it's about networking, connections here a lot? I get that impression. Like for myself, I took over my company here and that I've had for 16 years in the UK in February. And there was a real openness to connection. And I think people will connect you to others. And
I think because everyone here, if, that wants to work hard, they're all on the same, kind of vibe. And I think there's so much opportunity here and nobody's, it's not like kind of back in the UK where you've got people struggling or, got the people that don't want to do anything really. And they've got the people that do. And then there's the jealousy. Like everyone here is kind of on the same level. So, for me to help somebody, it's no skin off my nose. We're all here and everyone's kind of, upbeat and happy. And obviously the sun helps a lot. This view is incredible. So I think it's easier here. Everyone loves to help people much more so than in the UK.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely get that impression as well. And so with what you do, how is it mainly women that you support?
I mean, it just kind of happened that way, but it isn't. I do have men clients as well. It just kind of happened more so that more women come to me, but I do have some men clients.
And so what do you do practically with people then? If I was a client coming to you, how would you work through?
We would start off, every single client that I have, every single kind of session is tailor-made because you could be at a different point in your journey. So you could have an idea or you could be halfway through your journey and you just be kind of stuck. So every single session, we start with a kind of breakdown of where you are and then we set a plan. And every time you see me, I would have hoped that you'd have done that plan and then we set another plan. So until you get to where you need to be.
And it's specifically for business people?
No, I don't do life coaching. That's not, not something I do. I have had a few clients that have come to me and they needed help with like life, relationships, and I've had to pass them on to somebody who's that's their field because that's definitely not my field. But yeah, it's mainly just business.
Amazing. And you do events as well?
We do, yeah. So obviously my one-to-ones I love doing, but we do events for up to 200, 300 people where huge networking events, empowerment events and kind of business events. And I do masterclasses as well.
Amazing. So I want to take a step back. So you said that you were from Scotland or you were living in Scotland
before.
In Scotland,
yeah.
Where did you grow up and what was your childhood like?
I've probably told this story hundreds of times, so most people listening probably know. I was adopted at a very young age. I was born in London. I grew up in Essex. Finally got adopted by an incredible family with my two sisters and, had a really good life. Went to school in Brentwood and started working when I was 16. There were some bumps in the road prior to that with the baggage and the trauma that I'd kind of had as a child. So, it was a struggle. And then started working at 16 and then moved to Scotland.
And what took you to Scotland, from London or Essex to
Optical
Scotland?
Express. So I was working with Optical Express in London and then they moved me to Scotland.
Wow. And probably a lot of people have heard your journey and story. And how would you say that has positively shaped you?
It's given me some severe resilience, I would say, and some, a strength and probably a good kind of direction of where I want my life to go and what I don't want it to look like. It's definitely made me who I am today and for all the good reasons. I'm not a victim, I'm not bitter at all. Whereas, a lot of people that had been through what I'd been through would be like the world's against me, but I've kind of taken all of the pain and turned it into a purpose, really.
And I suppose it must help you relate really well to your clients. I think when we go through those challenges in life, we often become a little bit more empathetic, understanding and aware of how to help.
Yeah, sure. And everyone's got a journey and everyone's going through something. Like, in all times in life. And I just think having been through things, and you are very aware of other people's struggles. Yeah.
And how, as a mother, has it shaped you as a mother and the way that you see motherhood?
I think it's probably made it a bit easier because, starting businesses and like not being scared of hard work, because motherhood is bloody hard work. I think it's probably helped me that, if I can do that, I can do that, I think it's something that I'd like my kids to know, to watch me do is work hard and have the same kind of work ethic. But I don't think being an entrepreneur or a businesswoman has helped me, has kind of shaped me at all on the mother. Like, that's a whole different story. That's a whole different ball game, being a mother.
And so, okay, let's say there's an entrepreneur listening right now and they're considering, do I want to be a mother, right? They know the grit, that what it takes for them to make what they do successful. What would you say are some things that they should consider or ask themselves?
I don't think there's ever a right time to become a mother, if I'm honest. I think you can do it, because I'm living proof that you can have businesses and be a mother at the same time. You have to have a supportive partner, and you've just got to expect a lot of late nights and early mornings, and a lot of patience, I think, is key.
And so, the dynamic between you and your husband, how do you both make it work?
We're both very similar. He's a huge, he's just as ambitious as me. We both met when we were starting out our businesses here. We both have very similar mindsets. I'm just a lot better at balancing family life and business, where he's more like 90% business. But we just work. We were lucky enough to find our people quite early on, moving to Dubai, and it just works.
Amazing. And you obviously, I've seen your Instagram, you guys go away, you make quality time. It seems like you make quality time a priority
as well.
I
think, it's hard, and you've always got that mum guilt, and that you're not doing enough with your kids and you're not spending enough time, and it is difficult. But when we do go away, we do like to switch off and try and spend as much time as we can with the kids.
Amazing. And so what would you say are some of the main struggles for you as a mother?
I'd say mum guilt was probably the biggest one. Not spending enough, even when I am with the kids, kind of like just trying to really be there and not be on my phone, and not, be, I catch myself when I'm like, when one of the little ones comes in and he's like, wants my attention, and I'm like, in a minute I'm on the phone, and I'm like, just put the phone down, that's probably the biggest struggle for me. Yeah, I'd say that was it, mum guilt.
Yeah. And I guess as an entrepreneur, you can work from home more. Yeah, and that is a plus side. It
is a plus, but when they're off school, it's not a plus. I do have my office at home. I have an office in JLT, my office at home, and then I can do my sessions on Zoom. But when the kids are off school, game over.
Yeah.
It's not a quiet house. It's not my safe haven.
And you've got not a massive age, but about a 10-year age gap, haven't you? Which is just...
Yeah, between the youngest and the oldest, yeah.
Epic. Seriously.
But it's good, because the two older ones are now, they're great babysitters.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know we were talking a bit before we got on camera today, just about some of the pressures, let's say, of being a woman, or things that we'll journey through. And I want to kind of talk about those a little bit more. And being in Dubai, I guess everyone kind of looks from the outside and goes, it's this picture perfect world of women who look beautiful in that kind of ideal. What's that world been like for you as a woman?
Up till recently, I wouldn't say there was I don't feel the pressure of, I'm obviously take care of myself, and, I do what most of, women here do. And it's hard, because here, I think it's warm a lot of the time. So in the UK, you're always covered up and stuff. I think here, you're, more so in a bikini than you are not. So I think it's the struggles and the pressure to look good is definitely there. More so than I'd suppose in the UK.
Yeah. And so what's been your journey with beauty? Because you look amazing. You look phenomenal. And you're a mum. And you've had 4 children. And people are probably going to be looking at you right now going, what the fuck? How?
I'm super lucky. I have a gym in my house, and I train probably 5 times a week. I've got couple of different trainers that come over, and we do different workouts and stuff. I'm super active, and obviously having 4 kids and businesses, I'm always on the go. I did suffer from bulimia when I was younger, when I lived in Scotland. For me, it's not, I don't think I had an issue with food. It was more something that I could control. You know, when things weren't going kind of right for me there, the one thing I could control was, you know, what I was eating. So that kind of took a year of my life until I stopped. And then, you know, I've been quite healthy with food, and my diet and everything's been fine. And for me, I think that was probably a huge learning curve on that I've got an issue with control.
Yeah. I mean, very similarly, between the ages of 16 to 18, I had anorexia. And I always say to people are like, you know, did you have this ideal of wanting to be skinny, or who were you looking at? And I was like, it was actually nothing to do with that. It was everything to do with control. So for me, my dad had an operation that went wrong when I was 14, and it left him paralyzed from the waist down. And it was overnight, our whole reality changed. Just 3 girls, and my mum was like, became the breadwinner, became the carer, became everything. And that emotional impact of that, it just felt like my whole reality was crumbling. And I wanted to control something and be really good at something. So it became food. So what was the moment for you when you realized what you were doing and you acknowledged the damage you were causing to yourself?
I think just saying it out loud, I actually, my parents came to visit me, and I actually told them after a year what I'd been doing. And once I'd kind of offloaded it and spoke to somebody about it, I was able to stop. So yeah, I think it was just acknowledging it.
Yeah. And had it been like a long stretch of time where...
It'd been a year.
Yeah. And what was the journey for recovery like for you? Was it...
I think it was just their support and their help, really, and just knowing why I was doing it. I can't really remember too much, but, you know, I didn't go back to doing it. Yeah.
So would you say that there is, living in Dubai, quite a lot of pressure on young women to look a certain way?
Do you know what? I think, you know, we all put pressure on ourselves. It doesn't matter if you live here. I mean, Instagram is a huge thing for that. You know, everything looks so perfect on there. I think in Dubai, what's a bit like, not sad, stressful, no. What's a bit concerning is the amount of adverts and the amount of clinics and the amount of kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? You know, like, it's everywhere. Get this done, get a mummy makeover, get this treatment, have the, you know, 50% off this. And I think that's quite concerning that it's so widely, readily available here. You know, it's like nipping down to the supermarket and getting a face cream, like, you know, everything is available here, and it's so much cheaper than anywhere else. I think that's slightly concerning, how they kind of not pressure you into getting stuff, but like how they offer it. Like, you know, you might, you know, like you even need it. And then you gets into your head, or maybe I should have that. So yeah, I think that's quite concerning, how readily available all these treatments are at the moment.
And I can imagine like actually working out who to go to. Who is a trusted source, who isn't. Have you had any horror stories?
I mean, I'm currently going through a court case at the moment where I went to have a PR free facial or free something at a clinic here in Dubai. And I was offered filler, so body filler injections. So similar to like what you would have in your lips, but obviously on a bigger scale for the body. And I literally went in for a free facial and got speaking to the surgeon. He'd come over from LA, and he had recommended that because the top half of my bum was a bit flat because I just had my 3rd child, maybe some body filler would create like a nicer shape. And he was going to do it for free, and, you know, I would just have to promote the clinic. And I hadn't done any research, you know. I look back now and think, what an idiot. But, you know, at the time you're speaking to a guy in a white coat and you're like, well, he must know what he's talking about. So he did 10 injections on each side. And then I was like, okay, so what are the do's and don'ts? Like, can I just go home? He was like, yeah, you can go home. I was like, can I train, can go in the sun, swim, shout, like, yeah, everything's fine. So went home and then, you know, trained as normal. And I think it was maybe 4 months or 5 months later, when it had kind of settled into my body, that my body then rejected it. It started to go really hot and really hard and really red. Every time I exercised, it would go really light. It was horrible. So I went back to the clinic, and I was like, something's not right. And they were like, no, it's fine. It's not the product. It's you, basically. And I was like, well, it's definitely the product, because it's only when I exercise, and it's just at where he's injected it. No, it's not the product. Spoke to the lady who distributes it, spoke to the clinic manager. No, it's not the product. And then I went to see my surgeon, who I'd been friends with for years, and he was furious with me that I had done this. He was like, it's the most dangerous thing that women are doing and that you could ever do. And he was like, you have to have it removed before, you know, it gets more severe. So he looked at the site where it was red and lumpy and stuff, and he removed where I'd had it injected. So hopefully, you know, that was fine and went away. And then I think it was 6 months later, I started being really ill, like just completely flawed. 24 hours, I would just be like dead until it was like my body was fighting something. It was fighting an infection. I lost loads of weight. I was frail. There was just something wrong. And then I was getting these black marks on my thighs, like down here. It looked like bruises. It was like black. And I went back to my surgeon, and he was like, we need to do an MRI. So we did that, and then it showed that there were some cysts in my legs. And basically where the doctor had injected the product too far into my muscle, it had migrated down my body, and there was some still left over. And it was basically killing me from the inside. So the black marks was the toxic product that had gone into my thigh. So I had to go in for surgery we did a blood test, and it showed that my blood was infected, like super high. So he put me in the next day straight away to get these out. He said it was 45-minute surgery. Let's get these cysts removed, and hopefully you can move on with your life. And then I woke up from an 8.5-hour surgery later, where it actually, instead of just doing 2 little incisions on my thighs to remove, because it was both sides, he'd had to do huge incisions around my entire body to go inside, because the migration of this product was everywhere. It wasn't just the cysts that you could see. It was embedded everywhere, from where he'd injected it all the way down to just above my knee. Oh my
God.
Yeah. And my surgeon said, if you'd left it 1 more week, you wouldn't be here. He said it was that bad.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
What was that like for you with the kids? And
honestly, it was the stupidity that I just went and had something done off a whim that I didn't even really need done. I'd never thought about it before. And just off of someone saying, oh, it's free, you know, to try it out. And the fact that I just did it without doing any research, didn't even really need it, you know, like, what an idiot. I beat myself up a lot about it. And I think for me, mentally, you know, physically I knew I'd be fine because I'm strong, I'm active, I knew I'd be fine. But mentally, for me, that took a good year for me to get over that. You could have left your children with no mother, you know, and your husband with no wife, just on a whim for a stupid treatment. So I did decide to tell my story, and hundreds and hundreds of women messaged me. So I'm hoping that, you know, a lot of them said that they wouldn't have it done now. And a lot of women had lost friends and family through this procedure. And it was just an injection, you know, it wasn't a surgery, it wasn't a BBL, it was just an injection.
So your reaction was of a standalone then, other women?
Yeah, and it wasn't like my body rejected it, but how it had been injected was what caused the issue. So it should be superficial, it should be above the muscle, in between the skin and the muscle, and it was injected far too deep. There was no aftercare, like I hadn't gone back for any checkups or anything. There was nothing. So it was negligent on their part. But, you know, these are the dangers and these are the side effects. And if I had done any research, you would have seen that, you know, as soon as you Google body filler side effect, it comes up death. Like, it's very clear. So yeah, hopefully my story will help other women not to do these things or to think twice about it. And it's not about, I got hundreds of messages saying, well, was it a cheap place you went to? No, it was an expensive salon, like a clinic. It was a well-known doctor from LA. Like, there was nothing cheap about it. I got it for free, but it isn't about, the cheapness or where you go to get it. You could go to Harley Street or anywhere and it's super expensive. You could still have the same effects,
Yeah. And so how has that changed your relationship? Has it changed your relationship to cosmetic procedures and surgeries?
I mean, I've not had any other injections into my body. I'll still have Botox and stuff like that, but I'll definitely think twice about having anything serious, anywhere else, because I don't need to have it. I'd rather try, and I need to, a shapely bum, then I'm going to work out more. It's just, it made me more sad that, one, I thought that, it might improve my appearance, but two, that I didn't even do any research and didn't think, you don't go and get Botox and think, oh shit, I might die and my kids might be left without a mum. You just don't. But probably now, like anything that I'm doing, I'm like being a bit more aware.
Yeah. And so if you think about that younger generation, let's say, of women who are entering into this world, what advice would you give them?
What makes me sad looking on Instagram and stuff, and you see these girls and they're like in their 20s and they're having stuff done, and I'm like, and they're so beautiful, and you're just like, it's obviously it's so much more deep rooted than them thinking that they need it. It's this society of this shit that we're up against is ridiculous. But yeah, I would say don't do it.
Yeah. Don't do anything.
I'm no expert. I obviously have my opinion, and I have my Botox and stuff, but I would, when it comes to any body filler injections or BBL or anything like that, like, don't do it.
No, I think, like, speaking to lots of women as well who've had BBL or had more, let's say, drastic measures to their body, they'll always say working out, eating well is what's done them a world of good over the.
Yeah, and it's this kind of fast-paced lifestyle we're in. Everyone wants it yesterday, and eating well and working out, it's going to take you 6 months. But you can go and get these procedures, but the swelling and you're not going to see the results until 6 months. So have a serious think about it. And it's not about do your research, go to the right surgeon. Like, it's like, do you really need it?
Yeah,
and
it's having the right surgeon who will actually like advise you well. Because I remember when I was I'd had my eating disorder. I was about 20, I think 21. That's when I have had 2 boob jobs, and that's when I got my first boob job. And I probably wasn't in the right mental state to actually make those decisions for my body. And I remember sitting down in the clinic and they asked you your medical history, and I put at the top anorexia, the years that I'd had anorexia, and it wasn't even acknowledged or flagged. But then in latter years, like when I've gone through maybe going to get Botox or whatever it might be at a young age, I've had good people who've gone, you actually don't need anymore, or like, you just don't need it right now, like your face is absolutely fine, can you go home? Like, and they've sent me home because you can become warped in your own brain that you think you need something that you don't. And I think what would you say if someone has had like bodily challenges like bulimia or anorexia or something like this, and they're thinking about going and getting more severe?
Again, I'm not an expert on this, and it's just my opinion. But I would say that the thing that helped me the most was to speak to somebody and deal with the real issues. That it isn't the body, it's the real issues that are in your mind or in your, in your heart, and traumas that you've obviously been through and reasons why you're doing this. Go to those, sort that out first, and then if you still want to do it, then fine. But I think get to the root cause of the problem. Healing from past traumas and stuff is so important. And only after having my kids did I decide to then heal from shit. And it changed my life. So I'd say, like, do that first and then see, if you still want to do it.
So what did that journey look like for you, of choosing to go on this healing journey?
It changed my life completely, like to finally admit that, my past and my childhood had really affected me in different ways. And I'd been doing things in different patterns because of that. And I didn't want my children to have that passed down to them, my insecurities and my, anything that held me back in life. I didn't want to pass that down to them. So I decided to do therapy and look into the root causes of shit and deal with it. And it took a while, and it's still ongoing. It's never going to be like I'm cured. But you just have to be aware. And it helped me so much.
And what was it that helped you most in that process?
I think just understanding, that me being kind of adopted and stuff, wasn't a case of rejection, and it wasn't that it wasn't me that they didn't want. It wasn't anything that I had done wrong. And I think just there was so many things on the journey, but just dealing with the issues and anxieties and insecurities that I had, finding out what caused them and then being able to put them to bed, And I recently did one for my fear of public speaking, and the regression and where we went back to was just unbelievable. It was just so sad that where my fear of public speaking had actually stemmed from the age of, 1, and where I was. And you go back and you see yourself, and it's incredible.
Is that hypnotherapy?
Yeah. But it's huge. And once you find out where it's come from, it's so much easier to deal with.
Amazing. Yeah. I know a lot of people who've vouched for hypnotherapy as a method of healing so that takes you back to the root then regression.
I mean, it takes you back to 3 places. One of them was school, another one was when I was being fostered, and the other one was when I was a baby.
Amazing. And it's inspiring that there's no timeline for this. It's kind of you've decided now to start doing this when you've had kids.
Yeah, and I wish I'd done it earlier, but my entire life I was fine. Didn't need it. I was absolutely fine. And I think until you're ready, there's never the right time. I could have done it then and things could have been different, but I'm doing it now, and I'll continue to do it and continue to work on myself.
And does that impact, so how has it impacted your public speaking then? Because you don't come across to me as someone who would have a fear of public speaking.
Do you know what? And it's I enjoy speaking, I enjoy telling my story, and I enjoy helping others, but it's this fear that it is not even to do with the speaking thing, but it's a fear of, I don't even know what the fear is, but it's there. And I get really nervous and really sweaty palms, and it's a horrible feeling. And I wanted to enjoy it, when I do all my events and stuff, I want to enjoy it. And there was this sickness feeling. I was I have to get rid of it. And I've done a few since then, and it's been absolutely fine. Yeah.
And so do you see yourself as a role model for women?
I mean, I hope so. I mean, more, I'd love to be, a role model for my kids, and for them to look up to. But I do want to be able to inspire and motivate and to continue to help as many women and men as I possibly can through my experiences and my journey. For everything that I've been through.
Yeah. And so how for you, what does it mean to you to be a woman?
A woman? Yeah. Gosh. I'm honestly not a feminist. I'm not go women. I'm go humans. Yeah. I'm all about men and women and go us. But to be a woman, it's powerful, right?
Yeah, I was having this conversation actually yesterday, and I often, as a business, as I'm sure you do too, get branched into that. Women's empowerment. We're a full female team in the office. I know. I mean, I don't like it. Yeah. I'll be honest. I don't like it. It wasn't my intention of what I set out to do. By a byproduct of my industry, it's mainly women, right? And so...
Out my branding's pink.
It's very good branding. Yeah. It's very good branding. But you kind of get... I've been bunched into this corner. Yeah. And I'm very much you, from what you've said there, it's about everyone and how do we actually do it together. Yeah. So what do you think are some of the downsides of businesses and movements that are all about women?
I think you're kind of cutting off 50% of the population. When I say this to a lot of my clients, when they want to help women, and I'm like, well, what about the men? Yeah. And that's 50% of your income right there that you're shutting off. So I think as someone that just wants to deal with women, you're 50% less income.
And it isn't how the world operates. So I think we actually become a bit lopsided and one-sided there are natural attributes that we have as women that men naturally have different attributes. And I think when we focus just on that one demographic, we do sideline that and almost make it less important.
Yeah, and I think, in a content where like women do need men, like as men do need women, and together we're even more stronger than, doing stuff separately. So yeah, I think that's a mistake.
So do you think the women's empowerment movement or the feminist movement as a whole is negative?
I don't think it's negative because I'm all about women empowerment. Like I love empowering women, but I don't shut the men off, Like I do my women empowerment stuff where it's, a good bunch of women because they feel more safer to talk in a women's group, and I'll do that. But then I'll do my networking events for business where it's, mixed. So I don't think it's negative. I think some women prefer to open up when there's not men there, and that's fine. But I just don't think cut yourself off completely.
So how do you think we bridge the gap then? How do we actually create spaces where...
I think doing what I'm doing is working perfectly, like doing the big events for the men and women, and then doing the separate ones for, 10 to 15 women so they can feel more comfortable and open up more. I think just, be mindful and just be inclusive.
Yeah. And so your branding, how do you say it's pink?
Why
Why did you choose that if you want to relate to?
I mean, pink's my favourite colour.
So it's just about you.
Yeah,
You love it.
it's all about me.
Love it.
Yeah.
And you are very I love your personal brand. It seems like you've been very intentional about building it. How?
Do you know what? I haven't. No. And everyone says to me that, your personal brand's so strong and it's so powerful. And honestly, I was building my businesses and I couldn't think of a name that I wanted to give my businesses. So I gave it my own name and my initials. And then it was, again, very organic. It kind of, I just built the brand around my name, and ta-da! It wasn't intentional. It has to be me. It wasn't about that. Honestly, it's powerful, and I love it. And it kind of, the KMH kind of umbrella under the Kelly Marie Hodgkin, and it just works. But it wasn't like it had to be this personal brand. It wasn't about that. But it's a great brand.
It is. And it's kind of just been a lot of it's your lifestyle as well, isn't it? It's how you show up. You seem pretty authentic to showing what you do, as well as your brand being what you do.
Yeah. And it was the same, my people were, when we were doing the branding and stuff, and, they were like, your Instagram is you. And, it's the high, it's not so many lows that I put on there, me crying and stuff, because who wants to see that? But, there is bad times, there is highs, there is lows, and, it's not always rainbows and butterflies. And I think I do show a bit of that when times are hard, or, shit's going down. You can kind of see that. It's not always perfect, but I do work really hard and try my very best.
Yeah. Why do you think someone should build a personal brand these days?
Do you know what? I think people love a story, and I think people will connect to you a lot more and resonate with a story and a personal brand than not having a face behind a brand. I think it's, people buy from me and they trust me because of me. It wouldn't be the same if it was just a brand and you weren't kind of the person behind it.
Yeah. Yes, it's that personal connection that people want to the business that they're doing business with. Amazing. So is there anything that you want our listeners to know about what you're doing this year, what they can plug into, how they can learn more about your work?
Yes. We are currently in talks doing a success summit for the beginning of this year. I will be in Glasgow doing a business masterclass in a couple of weeks. And I've got another Bling Bingo.
Oh, what's Bling Bingo?
Bling Bingo is one of my newest creations. It's basically Bling Bingo. It says it. Bingo, but not with the numbers. It's R&B, so it's R&B songs. And when you hear your song, you dob your dobber. And the bling, the prizes are diamond earrings. They're yacht experiences. They're weekends away. They're dinner for four. The prizes are seriously Dubai bling. And it's just the most fun night of the year. So the next one is February the 21st. Will you be here?
I'm going to make sure I'm here.
You better be here. So we've got that coming up. And then again, just more networking events, a retreat, hopefully in Italy coming up, and a lot more business events.
Non-stop. I love this. And you've got your own podcast as well, which
I do,
people can
yeah.
listen to.
Yeah, we're bi-weekly. It's called Muses and Mimosas, and we have a guest every 2 weeks.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for joining
Thank
me.
you
So
for having
Kelly,
me.
absolutely awesome.
Awesome.